BitTensor, or the TAO token, has lost 7% in the last week, while the market was relatively flat. Now that might be a first sign of losing conviction, but is this potentially an opportunity? Because in the end, crypto is all about buying low and selling high. We want to be contrarian. And what we see over here, that's the BitTensor price in US dollars. Interestingly enough, those bottoms align pretty well. The tops align also pretty well. Now the long-term trend obviously isn't that great, but we have been bouncing off a potential support. Now in this video, we are not just going to draw random lines on charts. Instead, we're going to look at the usage. We're going to look at the on-chain metrics. How is the staking developing? How is the tokenomics developing? I've already published a video on BitTensor 2 weeks ago, and it was quite popular. It got 2.2 times more views than the average video on this channel. So there's clearly interest. The attention seems to not be matching the recent price development. Hi, my name is Gerhard. I've been in the crypto space for the last 8 years. I hit my first million 3 years ago, and I did this mainly through active trading of Bitcoin, of Ethereum, but also of Altcoin. My track record is entirely public and can be seen on the website linked down below. We are at an all-time high. We have been making money with the recent crash. On average, a trade made 5.1%. So this is a chart of the last 2 years. That's when I started to publish my trades in real time. The average holding duration is 27 days per trade. This is 176 trades of history. I'm not showing the current open trades, but there is the entire trading history here. It's all public. Feel free to check it out. It can also be verified. For example, here, when I shorted the Move token over here and then I closed it, here are the corresponding messages. So that's when I opened here on the 1st of July, short the Move token, long Ethereum, and then subsequently, that's when I closed the Move position. That's when I adjusted the stop loss and then got kicked out with a profit in this case. But as you can see, not every single trade is profitable. But in the end, the long term matters. And so I don't think that many other people here on YouTube are willing to share that data. Maybe because it doesn't look that great. Now let's look again at BitTensor TAO. There is a dedicated page for the tokenomics. BitTensor has a halving cycle. So the inflation rate gets cut in half every 4 years. This is then how the circulating supply develops over time. To be more specific, 1 year from now, we will have 11.8% more TAO tokens circulating. 2 years from now, there's an additional 10.5%. After 3 years, we've got 35% more floating. After 5 years, we've got 50% more floating. And those kind of numbers matter. Bitcoin's inflation, for example, right now is 0.8% per annum. There is a stark delta here. Thus, TAO has to grow its demand much faster than Bitcoin, relatively speaking. Otherwise, the token has to long-term underperform. Now, not everybody takes this objective approach. They're just promoting the token. But there are some interesting things going on. For example, insider activity. By the way, I'm also regularly sharing data on X, formerly known as Twitter. Feel free to check that out. Make sure though that you follow the right channel. So that's at BitcoinStrat. Do not follow a fake account, please. Now, the problem with charts like this, US dollar charts, is that they are very much impacted by the general market, right? When Bitcoin and Ethereum goes up, then most altcoins go up as well. When they crash, most altcoins crash. Really, investing is all about opportunity cost. What's the best decision within the eco space? So instead of looking at the TAO token versus the US dollar, it's better to compare TAO relative to the rest of the altcoin market. This now is the TAO price divided by the others market cap. So others is all the altcoins that are not in the top 10. TAO is of course part of that. And again, we see that TAO's inflation over time tended to rather depress the price. Every rally was met with a subsequent sell-off, and the current momentum is rather bearish. TAO could underperform the rest of the alts by another 22, potentially even 30%. But at those 30%, things do become interesting. That would definitely become the contrarian play. And sometimes supports like this even become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If enough people believe that an asset at a particular price is cheap, then the selling pressure will ease and some people will buy the bottom. Thus, just because of that, just because we've got such a stable chart, that can become a reinforcing loop, turning the price around. Right now, though, a turnaround isn't as easy because in the past, when we hit those highs, we tended to subsequently fall to those levels again. Now let's have a look at a few on-chain metrics. BitTensor has a hard cap how many subnets it can host. That is 128 subnets. That limit got hit in June of last year, so 1 year ago. Now check out what happened with the staked TAO over time. Since the number of subnets didn't grow anymore, the number of staked TAO also had a hard time growing. Now that's a problem because TAO is still inflationary. We've got again the staked numbers here in green, and we've got the total issued TAO in yellow. This gap is widening, and that's problematic because every TAO token that's not staked is freely circulating, and freely circulating TAO tokens need demand. We can actually run the calculation. How much of TAO is staked? At one point, we had close to 90% being staked. Now it's only 66%. Here is how that looks like over time on a chart. I ran the numbers by downloading the CSV and plotting it. More and more TAO is getting released. The TAO that's locked up becomes less and less relevant over time. And so the token inflation becomes more and more of a problem. The 11-12% growth this year, that's pure selling pressure. It doesn't get locked up anymore. The number of staked TAO is just flat. Tokenomics matter. The long-term price chart shows how we're going lower and lower with every rally. The market cap chart though is relatively clearly trading between 2 billion and 5 billion. The reason why over time those tops go lower and lower is because there's more and more TAO tokens. Thus, it would need more and more capital to reach new all-time highs in the price. If the capital always caps at $5 billion, while at the same time the number of TAO tokens grows, then the price goes down. Here are the top exchange transactions. How much do exchanges deposit and withdraw TAO tokens over time? Apparently, Binance was the most active in the last 24 hours. But according to CoinGecko, when we look at the trading volume on those exchanges, KuCoin is a bit larger than Binance. So maybe KuCoin doesn't make as many transactions on-chain directly. The spot transaction volume was 19 million in the last 24 hours, but really the perpetual futures make all the difference. Here we had almost 500 million worth of trading volume on a single exchange. This is very typical because the transaction costs on the perpetual futures market are lower. In other words, when people want to just short-term speculate on an asset, it's cheaper to do this on the levered perps. It's not that cheap to do this on the spot market. Transaction fees are higher and also more capital is required. The funding rate for BitTensor TAO tends to be relatively balanced recently. The open interest is neither very high nor very low. This is important because this is a measure of how much leverage there currently is. When there's a lot of open interest, that means there are many traders that currently bet on BitTensor. This tends to also mean that the spot price goes up. When a lot of people trade with a token, the price goes up because there's also arbitrage bots that trade between spot and perpetual futures. When there's more bets on the price, then the price itself goes up. When there's less bets on the price, and the price itself tends to decline. And so it's important to watch this metric. We are not at depressed prices in open interest. If we were, and that would hit roughly $100 million, it would be much easier to recommend buying TAO. But right now, it's really not that enticing to speculate against the current momentum. The trading volume is also in no man's land. It's neither super high nor super low. We rather want to buy when we are low. We want to sell or short the asset when we are high. I've actually traded BitTensor before, and I want to share how I did this. So this is part of the track record. Again, this is linked down below. And let's have a search for the TAO token. So the last trade on TAO, that's over here. A gain of 36%. Now the direct messages are not linked on the public website. That's because it leads to the private premium Telegram, and that's available only for the premium members. But I want to share the reasoning at the time. So let's again search for TAO and open those two messages. That was on April 6th. We had a def cross. So that is when a faster moving average goes below a slower moving average. And then subsequently, when we closed that position, we had a golden cross. So we shorted here, we closed the short here. Now you see that this is the 6-day and 15-day simple moving average. This sounds rather random, but really it's not. This is historically what worked the best for BitTensor TAO, through a simulation of buying and selling to optimization. So that's over here in Bitcoin Strategy Analytics. Let's have a look at BitTensor and its best moving average crosses. Here is that result. So this is how we go about trading. We try to find the best trading rule to time an asset. We've got the slow moving average at the bottom. We've got the fast moving average here on the left. And every single data point here shows a backtest for TAO. The best combination is over here. And I like this kind of approach because this way we don't have to re-evaluate everything every single day. Instead, we just determine what used to work in the past and then just apply those rules for the future. That's how I was able to outperform. It's with data. It's not just random luck. Just have a look at how this develops over time. This is the portfolio value measured in TAO. I like this trading rule. It made us quite a bit of money. Now, where do we stand with that right now? Let's have a look at the live chart. The 6-day SMA is below the 15-day SMA. The fast moving average is below. We had the death cross on the 1st of June. We should rather be cautious to buy BitTensor now. This is where we made our trade, by the way. So yeah, it's all a game of risk versus reward. How much reward do we really get and how much are we risking? Looking at BitTensor relative to the rest of the altcoin market, it's not necessarily dirt cheap. Holding BitTensor very long term though is a problem because the supply grows very quickly and that growth in supply is not getting absorbed by staking. Rather the opposite. The percent of supply that's being staked goes down over time. So holding BitTensor outside of a scenario where it's extremely cheap, it's probably not that great. At least that's how I see it. Now, if you want to follow my trades, or if you even want to automatically copy trade whatever I do, then feel free to check out the premium membership. It's currently $125 per month. There's also a 7-day money back guarantee. If you don't like premium, just message me within 7 days and I'll refund you. No questions asked. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish here regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time here on YouTube or see you on Premium. Link to that pops up here on the screen as well. Thanks for watching. Cheers.